There's several questions on the quiz that involve bar charts. And while bar charts are a pretty easy type of chart to make, you just have to be careful about the way you do your scales and the labeling because they can be deceiving. So you may have missed a question similar to this bar chart that you see on your screen. What I want you to notice at a glance is if you look at the points for Team B, it seems like Team B had more than double the points of Team A because the bar for Team B is more than twice the size of Team A. So at a glance, that's what you would read, that, wow, Team B had so many more points than Team A, more than double. But where you have to be careful is you got to come over here and look at the vertical scale. The vertical scale does not start at 0, which makes this very misleading. Because if you really pay attention to the numbers on the vertical scale, Team A had 40 points. If you go over here, Team B had 60. So Team B did not even get double the number of points because they would have had to have gotten at least 80 points. So very deceiving on the graph because it did not start at 0. If I had decided to start the scale at 0, so let me go ahead and just highlight over this. And you see a graph of the same information, but I started it at 0 now. Then you see that while the Team B bar is bigger, it's not twice the size or more than twice the size of Team A. So when you start the vertical axis at 0, it is a much more effective and much less misleading graph. Much more misleading when you start the scale at something different than 0. So that might have been one type of question you may have missed. You just need to make sure you always pay attention to the scaling that's used in the graphs. The labeling and the scaling are very important. Another type of bar graph question that's out there on the quiz is something like this. And once again, the main message here is pay attention to the labeling on the graph, on those different axes. Notice this says percent change from previous year, and this scale starts at 0. So what that means is that every single one of these bars is reflecting a positive percent change because the percent change bars are all above 0. So if we did something like a line graph, we would get a completely upward trend in enrollment because it's showing that enrollment, since each year from the previous year has a positive percent change, then that would mean that the next year always increased from the previous year. Well, how this graph is tricky is it's making it seem that like from 2000 to 2001, it's making it seem like enrollment decreased, but yet it didn't. Enrollment increased in 2001 from the year 2000 because it's increased about what does it look like? About 2.2% or so. I'm looking at this bar right here and going over here. So in 2001, it is actually a higher enrollment than 2000 just because of what these bars are representing here. So you have to realize that each year is actually an increase from the previous year. But if it says something in the questions like, but what year showed the lowest increase, then you would say 2001 from the year 2000 just because it is the lower bar. But yet the main message here is that it's still an increase though. The higher increase was, of course, in 2008 from 2007 because that's the higher bar. But they were all increases. That's the main message. And if, like I said, if I transferred this to a line chart, it would literally be a steady upward, it would have some dips or actually wouldn't even have any dips. It would be steady upward chart, although some of the increases would be higher than the others. But they would all be increases from one year to the next because these are positive percent changes.